Shiona, the conversation that is leading here in Kigali as of this moment is shaping the future of Africa's financial services. You as Sybrin, how do you find yourself in this conversation?
It's a great question, and thanks for having me, Michael. So from Sybrin's perspective, we've been involved within the African continent for over 27 years, predominantly in the payment solutions provider space. Currently, if you look at from an Africa perspective, everybody's talking about digitization. You know, how do you increase effectiveness? How do you ensure your customer journey is better? And what we really do is provide a digital platform. We call it a low-code platform. And low-code, I think, is important. So instead of coding these days, it's more around configuration. So on top of that, we've built a couple of accelerators, one being a payments hub, which talks to things like EFT, SWIFT, RTGS, etc. On the other hand, we have a case management component, and as part of that, we talk about empowering financial services within Africa. Component of that is how do you get financial inclusion. So from a mobile selfie onboarding perspective, we've created this application, which obviously talks to all the back-end components. It's called case management, which is a dynamic process, no longer linear. You want to obviously get your customer onboarded as quickly as possible and be able to service them in the best possible way. So it also allows for omni-channel. And omni-channel says you could start the process potentially on a mobile phone, and for instance, certain of the areas you have different requirements. So Tanzania, you need a ward letter, which is still a physical piece of paper. So you could start it on a mobile device, but then have to go in store potentially to finish it.
But then doesn't that really take us away from the whole idea of being digitally driven with financial services if you still need a paper to work for a paper system, a paperless system rather?
Fair enough, and I think it's a great question. I mean, obviously we don't make the regulations in the countries, and I do think as the digital journey continues within Africa, we will see more and more paperless environments coming into effect. My understanding with Rwanda is you're looking at a paperless environment over the next 2-year period from one of the conversations that I've had. But I think right now is still the journey, as opposed to going in branch or in store, is you can at least start the process on one channel and then complete it. But those, I think, at some point will definitely become a seamless digital journey.
That sounds rather very fine and interesting. Now, we do see a rapid innovation in the payment sector, very interesting there. But half of the new startups and revolutionizing payment channels, there is still a huge transaction being made on the back of checks. About $50 million, at least, that were done in 2015. So tell me, we're moving into a paperless system. Rwanda is pushing for a cashless economy. Do we necessarily still need to have checkbooks with us?
So it's an interesting question, and I think if you look at what's happening in South Africa, for instance, we've seen a decline of check volume steadily over the last couple of years. Having said that, checks are not disappearing. And I think there is still a place in our environment right now, but I think as we see different cryptocurrencies coming into play, etc., we'll see that diminish more and more. But right now, in terms of you've got from an African footprint, you've got to cater for both cashless and the checks and still paper money.
You mentioned something very interesting there that we cover at least every time on the channel, cryptocurrencies. Now, we do see central banks actually moving into this space, looking at how to create regulations for the cryptocurrencies. But just a few years back, this was not a conversation to actually look at, with central banks and bigger investors saying cryptocurrencies are fraud. So what do you think really changed midway?
Look, I think there's been a lot of controversy around cryptocurrencies. I don't think cryptocurrencies are going anywhere in terms of it is going to definitely be a part of our future, in my opinion. And I think if you look at what some of the proof of concepts that are being done, because nothing's really in production at the moment, I think it's really difficult to, from a legislative perspective, you've got a number of players in the financial services industry, and there's got to be some consensus, and that's got to be regulated. And I think strides at the moment are being put into place for when we are ready to go into a cryptocurrency environment.
Please talk to me about something that's rather very interesting again on the back of this conversation. You do support digital onboarding, like I can onboard myself on the Sybrin platform. How is this done? Maybe more like an inside conversation on that.
Sure. So from a mobile perspective, and we've really created, it starts on the mobile, like I said, it's an omni-channel environment, but from a mobile onboarding, All the financial institutions are looking for better ways to engage with their clients and also to offer them self-service capabilities. Okay. So we are definitely seeing a trend moving away from branches, to consolidating, making branches smaller, but enabling clients. So from a mobile onboarding perspective, what Sybrin has got is an onboarding application where you can do live selfie detection, so you can't just take a photo of a photo. Obviously, from a fraud perspective, we want to ensure that that's not going to happen. You can also look at taking your national ID. It does barcode reading. It then ratifies or verifies that against either the national credit database, your national home affairs environment. You can then turn on location-based services, so it can ratify that this is your location, and you can actually self-onboard in under 2 minutes.
Shiona, just in 1 minute, because I think that's all the time we have. There is pretty much more other players in this sector as of the moment as we speak. So what makes you stand out, or what do you think is going to make me feel more comfortable with actually not going to the other players? I mean, competition. How do you beat competition on this thing?
Great question. We are an African organization, and we are very much invested in the sustainability of Africa. So I think we've been in the space, like I said, for 27 years.
27 years.
27 years. And we are all about, how do we help our customers? It's a partnership journey. We've been in the financial services in space for multiple, like I said, 27 odd years. In Rwanda itself, we have 7 out of the 11 commercial banks.
Now, which one of those?
I'm not allowed to mention them. Sorry, I'm not allowed to disclose that at this point in time.